Stand by me. No, anyway. Clash, Trinivane was playing. Anyway, hey man, how the heck are you? It is Saturday evening as I do this video. I picked up this Stout Bout Box from Schlafly. 4.5%. Let's see, it says here somewhere. Now I can't read it. 4.5%, 30 IBUs. There we go. Session Stout. Okay, yeah, what the hell. I've got friends that draw the line at 4% because, you know, archaic British tradition. I don't think that way. Session Stout. Stout brewed with lactose. So I don't know why they're not referring to this as a milk stout. It is a session stout, so whatever. I did pour it, took some pictures, and poured it with a nice head, and as you can see, it left some nice lacing there, so it's very sticky. It does have that, again, that milk stout kind of aroma, right? A lot of milk chocolate notes on the nose. Sweet, sticky, as it were. Yeah, it's good. I don't. Yeah, again, you know, if this was available in 6-packs where I pick it up, I might pick it up once. It is interesting, though. Actually, I might have to change my mind here. My first thought was, it's okay. It's average. It's good. Yeah, you know. That's kind of the thing with craft beer these days, you know. I guess it's just not enough to be a good beer. It has to be it has to be memorable, right? You got to think, oh yeah. And I don't know how many beers I've had that were good at the time, but they never crossed my mind again. But this one is nice. In fact, it's better than nice now that I get a handle on it. It starts out almost milk chocolate, kind of morphs into kind of a semi-sweet kind of chocolate, you know. And the finish is very nice. It does clean up rather dry, which is pleasant. And I'm going to call 4.5 session. Why the hell not? I mean, listen, I'm not tied to archaic English tradition of what they think a session ought to be, because as an American, my idea of what a session is different than what you know, what somebody from England or Great Britain or the UK, whatever they're calling themselves these days. Funny talking assholes. I mean, I don't care. Whatever they refer to themselves as. I don't care. See, pubs had 2 sessions, so they were, you know, session beers. They were 4%, so you could drink, you know, for a particular 4 hours, or, you know, the next set 4 hours. But when you say session beer to most Americans that haven't spent time abroad a lot like myself, we think of a session a little bit differently. For me, as a session is if I'm hanging out with friends, if I'm going to a card game. You know, we're still talking about the same, you know, 4-hour time period most of the time, but we look at it a little bit differently. So I don't know why my idea of a session beer has to be tied to archaic English tradition. So what I'm saying is I understand why to them 4% is a session beer. I get it, and I understand completely. But I don't understand why I have to adhere to that same archaic way of thinking. Having not grown up that way, it doesn't matter to me. What I think a session is certainly different than what they do. I once intentionally provoked an argument by someone asked me what I thought a session strength was. I said anything under 6%. Yeah, I was trying to be a little controversial, and it was. But yeah, I mean, I don't care. A session beer, it really is whatever it is to you, in my opinion. You know, you got those strict thinkers that think it ought to be 4%, and I even talked to a lot of friends from social media that happen to be, you know, over there And most of them will draw the line at 4.5, and I've even had some of them say 5%. They don't even stick to that archaic line of thinking. Hell, and I've even talked to some American craft beer drinkers that will say anything underrated. Anything that's not an imperial or a double is session. Hey man, it's whatever you want it to be. 4.5%, 30 IBUs. I think that certainly falls in line with just about anybody's idea of a session beer, in my particular opinion anyway. But having said all that, you know, my first thought after taking the first drink, it's good, but it's not memorable. And the more I drink this, the more memorable it becomes. So I'd like to kind of walk back some of my early thoughts on this beer. For what it is, I think it's good. Would I buy it? Yeah, actually, I would. And I'll tell you why. Because as we get into the colder months, I like these flavors. I like this texture. I like this body. And at only 4.5%, it is certainly a beer that I could take if it came in a 6-pack. I could take a 6-pack to a family gathering. It's certainly a beer that I could drink more than one of. It's certainly that style of beer that you could share with folks. So there you go. And Schlafly beer tends not to be crazily priced. You know, they tend to be kind of in line. Some of their seasonals will get a little expensive. Some of their specialty stuffs will run, you know, $11, $12 a 6-pack. But most of their stuff I could find for between $8 to $9 a 6-pack. And a beer like this really ought to be out for about, you know, $7.99 to $8.99 a 6-pack. At that, you know, I wouldn't feel bad about sharing this with family and friends that, you know, are trying to stretch their legs a little bit. So there you go. Got a burp stuck right there. Got the fire in the background. Can you hear the crackles? It's not a real fire. It's my TV. But I like the background. I like the ambiance. It makes me feel good. I feel like Heat Miser. Anyway. Mr. Heat Blister. Mr. 101. Friends call me Heat Miser. Whatever I touch to do starts to melt in my clutch. I'm too much to do. Anyways, I digress. Yeah, it's like getting to be that time of year, man. I typically wait till after Thanksgiving to start getting into Christmas, but I think we're going to start a little bit early this year. Buck tradition. Anyway, there you go. I think it is good. What I really enjoy about this, the more that I drink this, is the finish, because there is that certain amount of sweetness early on. You almost have that Tootsie Roll kind of chocolate feel about it. But then it cleans up nicely and dries up in the finish. Those 30 IBUs certainly help. Without taking away from the malt, which in this beer really is the star of the show. So there you go. Anyway, I digress, man. I am Tom the Beer Whisperer, Beer Financials, Brother Big Beer Drinker, for Rose the Man. All right, good guy. Cheers.